The gentle hum of the coffee maker was the soundtrack to our morning routine, a familiar and comforting melody. I, Sarah, moved around our sunlit kitchen, packing little Liam's diaper bag with military precision while my husband, Ben, sat at the counter, scrolling through news on his phone. It was a Tuesday, but it felt like a Saturday because we were heading to my parents' annual summer barbecue. The air was warm with the promise of sunshine, grilled burgers, and the cheerful chaos of family. Did you remember the sunscreen for Liam? Ben asked without looking up. Right here, I said, holding up the bottle before tucking it into a side pocket. And the extra pacifier, and the wet wipes, and the backup outfit for when he inevitably gets ketchup on the one he's wearing. Ben finally glanced up, offering a small, distracted smile. You're a pro. It was a nice thing to say, and I knew he meant it. But it was also the kind of thing you say to a reliable teammate, a well-oiled cog in the machine of our life. We were a good team, Ben and I. We navigated the demands of his job, my part-time work from home, and the beautiful, all-consuming whirlwind that was our 2-year-old son with efficiency and mutual respect. The passionate, can't keep our hands off each other couple from 8 years ago had gracefully evolved into a solid partnership. Sometimes, I wondered if that was all we were now, partners, co-parents, a perfectly synchronized duo that had, somewhere along the way, misplaced the spark that started it all. Later, at my parents' backyard, the scene was everything I had anticipated. The air was thick with the scent of charcoal and citronella. My dad, ever the proud grill master, held court over a sizzling feast while my mom flitted between guests with a platter of deviled eggs. Laughter and chatter bubbled up all around us. Ben was in his element, talking football with my uncles, his easygoing nature making him a family favorite. I was in my element, too, but it was a different one. I was on Liam duty, following his unsteady toddler path, wiping his hands, and ensuring he didn't dive headfirst into the flower beds. It was a role I cherished, but it was also isolating. I was, Mom, in a crowd of people, my identity neatly packaged into that one, all-important word. That's when my Aunt Carol, the family's resident entertainer, tapped a spoon against her lemonade glass. All right, everyone, quiet down. It's time for the annual bad joke contest. You know the rules. The cornier, the better. A collective groan mixed with laughter rippled through the crowd. This was a tradition. Uncle Frank told a pun so awful about a ceiling that it was barely a joke. My cousin Maya told a long, rambling story about a chicken crossing the road that had a punchline nobody understood. The mood was light and silly. Then, it was my turn. All eyes swung to me. I felt a familiar flush of self-consciousness. I wasn't the funny one in the family, that was Aunt Carol. I was the responsible one, the organized one. Oh, I don't know any good ones, I demurred, holding a squirming Liam on my hip. Come on, Sarah, anything, someone shouted. Ben caught my eye from across the patio and gave me an encouraging nod. It was just a joke. Taking a deep breath, I set Liam down and stepped into the center of the circle. I remembered one I'd heard at the grocery store. Okay, I began, feeling a little silly. Why don't scientists trust atoms? I paused for dramatic effect, looking around at the expectant faces. Because, I said, a grin starting to break through my nervousness, they make up everything. It wasn't just the joke. It was the delivery. The sheer, ridiculous simplicity of it, combined with the proud way I delivered the punchline, struck a chord deep within me. A giggle escaped my lips, which then turned into a full-blown, uninhibited laugh. It wasn't a polite chuckle. It was the kind of laugh that came from my toes, a sound I hadn't heard from myself in years. My head fell back, my eyes squeezed shut, and I just let it roll out of me, loud and clear and utterly, joyfully free. The crowd erupted in good-natured groans and laughter. But as my own laughter subsided and I wiped a tear from my eye, I looked across the circle and saw Ben. And he was just staring at me. He wasn't smiling at the joke. He wasn't laughing with the others. He was looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. It was intense, thoughtful, and full of a wonder I hadn't seen on his face since the early days of our dating life. It was as if he had been looking at a familiar painting for years and had just noticed a breathtaking, hidden detail he'd never seen before. His gaze was so focused, so raw, that the rest of the party seemed to fade into a blur around him. My heart did a little flip-flop in my chest. The moment broke as Liam toddled over and wrapped his arms around my legs. The party continued, the noise swelled back up, and Ben was pulled into another conversation. But something had shifted. A new, silent current hummed between us for the rest of the afternoon. On the car ride home, with Liam asleep in his car seat, the quiet was comfortable but charged. You had a good time today, Ben said, his eyes on the road. I did, I replied, looking out the window at the passing streetlights. It was a nice day. That laugh, he said softly, almost to himself. I turned to look at his profile. What about it? He was quiet for a moment, choosing his words. It's been a while since I've heard you laugh like that. A really long while. It was the best sound I've heard all year. His words settled over me, warm and heavy. They weren't a criticism, they were an observation filled with a strange mix of nostalgia and discovery. That night, after Liam was safely tucked in bed, we found ourselves on the porch swing, the way we used to when we first moved into this house. The crickets chirped a steady rhythm, and the air was cool. I realized something today, Ben began, his arm around my shoulders. When you laughed at that stupid joke, I saw you, Sarah. Not just my wife, or Liam's mom, though you're amazing at both of those things. I saw the girl I fell in love with in college. I leaned my head against his shoulder, listening. Remember our third date? He continued, a smile in his voice. We went to that terrible karaoke bar, and you dared me to sing that Bon Jovi song, and when I butchered it, you laughed exactly like that. So loud and unapologetic that the whole bar turned to look, and you didn't even care. You were just so full of life. I fell in love with that laugh first, I think. Tears pricked at my eyes. I did remember. I remembered the girl who wore thrift store dresses and danced in the rain. The girl who would drag him on spontaneous road trips and who believed that a pizza and a movie could solve most of life's problems. I hadn't thought about her in so long. I'd assumed she'd been replaced by the woman who worried about mortgage rates and pediatrician appointments. I think I lost her for a little while, I whispered. We both did, Ben said, pulling me closer. Life happened, and we built a great life, Sarah, a beautiful one. But today, seeing that laugh, it was like finding a treasure I forgot we had. I don't just want to be a good team with you. I want to make you laugh like that every single day. His words were a key, unlocking a door inside me that I had let rust shut. The change wasn't dramatic or instantaneous. It was a quiet revolution. The following weekend, instead of our usual routine of chores and grocery shopping, Ben presented me with a plan. Liam is with your mom for the afternoon. We have 4 hours. What should we do? I looked at him, the man who was rediscovering me, and I felt a spark of the old me flicker to life. Do you remember how to be silly? I asked. We drove to a park, not the one with the perfect toddler playground, but the one with a wide open field. And we didn't talk about bills or daycare. We played. We had a race to the big oak tree, and I let him win, but only just. We lay on the grass and found shapes in the clouds, arguing playfully about whether one was a dragon or a very lumpy sheep. And I laughed. Not the polite laugh from PTA meetings, but my real, loud, from the gut laugh. At home, we started a new tradition, Friday night dance party. We'd put on Liam's favorite Disney songs or music from our college years, and the three of us would dance around the living room like fools. The floors would get sticky with juice, and the couch cushions would become a fort, and the mess didn't matter. In the middle of one particularly enthusiastic rendition of Life is a Highway, Ben spun me into a dip, and as he looked down at me, his face flushed and happy, I saw that same look from the barbecue, the look of wonder. He started seeing me differently because I started showing up differently. I stopped hiding my goofy side behind the mask of responsible adult. I'd tell him my dumb jokes. I'd drag him into a silly TikTok dance trend I'd seen. I started wearing the bright yellow dress I'd always loved but thought was too frivolous for a mom. And he responded in kind. He left little love notes in my laptop bag. He started a pillow fight one evening after dinner for no reason. The weight of our responsibilities didn't vanish, but the joy we found in each other became the counterbalance we'd been missing. A few weeks later, on a perfectly ordinary Wednesday morning, I was rushing to get ready. I was trying to clasp a necklace, my fingers fumbling with the tiny clasp. Here, let me, Ben said, coming up behind me. He took the ends of the necklace, his fingers brushing against the nape of my neck. Our eyes met in the bathroom mirror. He fastened the clasp but didn't let go, instead resting his hands on my shoulders. What? I asked, smiling at his reflection. He just shook his head slightly, his gaze soft. Nothing. I really see you, Sarah. And I love everything I see. It wasn't a grand declaration made on a vacation or over an expensive dinner. It was in our messy bathroom, with toothpaste splatters on the mirror and the sound of cartoons drifting in from the living room. And that made it more real, more profound, than any gesture that had come before. A simple joke didn't fix our marriage, because it wasn't broken. We were happy, but that joke, and the laugh that followed, was a wake-up call. It reminded us that buried beneath the layers of adulthood, parenthood, and partnership, the two people who fell in love were still there, waiting to be rediscovered. Ben didn't just start seeing me as the girl he fell in love with. He started seeing the whole, complete woman I had become, the mother, the partner, and the joyful, laughing soul at the center of it all. And in his new old gaze, I finally remembered how to see her, too.